Hello, I'm Dr. Lynn Michael, and I'm going to talk today again about anxiety and depression, kind of our mood disorders. The last YouTube we did, I talked more about how our conscious and unconscious thoughts create feelings, and how these feelings then become habituated or become habits and sort of take on a personality, and our personality, our ways of responding and reacting to the world. In this video, however, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the nervous system and the endocrine system develop and how that impacts our mood, especially anxiety and depression. And then the third talk, I'm going to talk about the neurotransmitter impact on the brain and what those neurotransmitters are, how they're balanced, and how they become unbalanced, affecting our mood. So like we said before, about 40% of our mood is kind of inherited. You know, we might have like a happy personality, or we might be a little melancholy, we might be introverted, but about 40% of that is inherited. A big impact on our personality and our tendency for mood is really developed at an early age, actually from infancy on. And what we've found is that the nervous system, the brain, that biochemistry, and our endocrine system, which has to do with our adrenal glands, our thyroid, our pituitary and hypothalamus gland, are really impacted by what's happening around us and the environment. So if you're raised in an environment where people attend to you really quickly, you hear the baby cry, you go attend to it, they don't have to cry too long to get their needs met, they're comforted, they're fed at the appropriate time, they have a soothing touch, the environment is peaceful, then the nervous system responds in a calm way, or can be comforted. And also the impact of stress hormones is kind of, should we say, normal or moderate. So when most of the time things are perceived and responded to in a soothing way or comforting way or in an appropriate way, then the impact of a stressful event is, not there all the time. Occasionally, the mom doesn't come. Occasionally, they hear a loud noise. So the neuroendocrine system is relatively balanced and responding appropriately to the environment. However, some environments where children or babies are raised, it's a stressful environment. Maybe the baby cries a long time, nobody comforts it. When they do, they're angry, and the touch isn't soothing. There can be a lot of stress in the mother and the family, a lot of chaos in the home. And in that case, then the nervous system is always kind of on alert, waiting for the next shoe to drop or waiting for the next stressful event. And it's happening too often or, frequently. And in that case, then the nervous system is set on kind of alert. It's geared to be, heightened, to respond quickly and expecting that kind of stimuli. That has a direct effect then on the endocrine system, which is putting out stress hormones. So we have relatively irritable nervous system, and it's responding very quickly to stress hormones, those fight or flight hormones. And then the other side of that is, if it's happening so often, the nervous system and the endocrine system can kind of be depressed, shut down, so to speak, or numbed, in some ways desensitized to that. So we get either personality that becomes sort of heightenedly, tendency to be nervous or irritable, or somebody who's just shut down, which could look very much like depression. So this neuroendocrine response that develops as an infant then can translate and develop as we grow up. And even though there may not be a lot of stressful events going on as you get older, your nervous system is still primed, your endocrine system is still primed to kind of overreact or have this heightened tendency to react to things in a stressful way.
So people get startled easily.
They worry.
They worry a lot.
They think something bad's going to happen. Their reaction to a phone call, for example, from their boss is to automatically shoot out stress hormones before they even hear what
they automatically assume the worst.
Yeah. And it's maybe not even a thought. It's just the nervous system is just, kind of geared that way to react in that way. So when a naturopath looks at anxiety and depression, we're kind of I'm looking at this neuroendocrine response and sort of assessing, when I talk to people, at kind of how theirs has developed. One thing you have to think about then is the impact on the adrenal glands, because when the nervous system is set on high alert or kind of wound up to be reactive too easily, you have this continual impact on the adrenal glands, which are small glands sitting over your kidney, but they're the gland that put out the stress hormones like adrenaline. And so when people are putting out adrenaline too easily and too long over time, this has a very wearing impact on that adrenal system. Of course, your medical doctor isn't going to say you have a disease, or they're not really even going to address the adrenals until you have a disease, which rarely happens. But we talk about the adrenals in a stage of balance or a stage of function. So this impact of seeing the nervous system pushing the adrenals to release adrenaline too often can be sort of wearing out to the adrenals. We call it adrenal fatigue. And there are actually quite a few stages of that adrenal fatigue. The first stage is cortisol is always high or frequently high. And that is a very depleting state. It takes a lot of energy, vitamins, and minerals to keep this adrenaline pumping, to put out cortisol and to create that cascade of blood sugar out into the system so the muscles can fight or flight. The body has to deal with that blood sugar. That recruits a lot of B vitamins and minerals to turn it into energy, or if you're not doing anything with that fight or flight reaction, turning it into triglycerides being stored as fat. So that whole cascade is very nutrient rich, or it requires a lot of nutrients. So it's very wearing on the body, wearing on the nutrients that we have to keep that system going. And when the first stage of adrenal fatigue really is this heightened cortisol response, it's happening when you answer the phone, it's happening when you're driving to work, it's happening when you talk to your mother, for example. So we get that first stage of adrenal fatigue as excess cortisol. The next stage of adrenal fatigue is when it's dysregulated. So in that stage, you can still mount that high cortisol reaction, adrenaline, but you also get really tired. So some people find that, they have a lot of good energy in the morning, but they crash in the evening around 3 or 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Or they are, kind of tired in the morning, and then they get a surge of energy more like 7 or 8 or 9 when they should be going to bed.
They feel that wired, but
right,
tired. Yeah.
So that's kind of the mid stage of adrenal fatigue and this adrenal dysregulation. And then the last stage of adrenal fatigue is just when you're exhausted. When you can't really mount cortisol anymore, you're nutrient deficient from that extended period of time. And it usually takes years, or it takes this personality that sort of evolved, this neuroendocrine state to do that, maybe by sometimes even in your 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
But often in your 40s or 50s, you see that depleted stage. At that point, you're just exhausted. You're getting sick because cortisol really is part of our immune anti-inflammatory support. So at that stage, when you're depleted, you're getting run down, you're feeling sick, you probably are having a lot of inflammation, and of course, you're feeling depressed. You can have anxiety too, but at that stage, when you feel so depleted, often people just think they're depressed. But it's pretty easy to see by personality and lifestyle, how much this nervous system, endocrine system are impacting their mood. So, again, we talked about nutrients that are depleted. One of the ways that we start impacting restoring this system is by adequate nutrition, like you talked about too. We need a healthy gut. We need to be able to absorb the nutrients to repair, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But some people, just wanted as an aside, some people come in knowing when they're depleted and so run down, they're sure it's their thyroid gland.
Right. Yeah.
And I must have low thyroid. Will you test my thyroid? Well, the problem with the thyroid is when you're so depleted, the body senses that nutritionally that you're depleted, and it will start intentionally desensitizing your cells to the impact of the thyroid hormone, because it really wants to preserve you. The heart, the lungs, our vital organs need all those nutrients to function and keep us, alive. So the body intentionally turns our metabolic rate down so we will rest and we will repair and we will stop that activity. Of course, most people just, would you please just give me a little more thyroid because I really need to keep going.
Right.
But it will backfire at some point. Again, I don't know how many times I can say this, aging and disease are really breaking down faster than we're repairing. So, that's not really a good support to just jack up the thyroid to help you have that better energy. A lot of what we need to do as far as repairing this neuroendocrine system, we talked last time about the conscious and unconscious thoughts, and I'm hoping at some point we do a video about some techniques to change the way we're thinking and to have some intention about having a habit of trying to break that cycle even a little more than we did last time. But some of the basic supports for the neuroendocrine system really dovetail with Chinese medicine in that they're about our lifestyle and about how we take time to rest, how we take time to be calm, how we take time to sleep and get in that regular sleep cycle. Of course, again, we need to have that healthy digestive tract, so attention to the kind of foods you talked about that aren't too stimulating or too excess. And then that are really right maybe for our blood type, taking out the processed food, healthy protein, healthy fats, lots of vegetables and some fruits. Can't emphasize that enough. Eat your fruits and vegetables. We were told that in the 50s and 60s, 70s, but really that is the foundation of health, as much as we can get to those foods that actually have the vitamins and nutrients. Again, I just want to say about that, processed food has calories, but no real nutrients that can sustain and rebuild our body. So eating processed food is really a nutrient deficiency. We have to rob our body of those B vitamins, those minerals, to turn glucose into energy. And if it's not in the food we're eating, a box of Cheerios or, oh, sorry, I shouldn't say a name like that, but a box of processed food or a bag of chips, we really have to rob those nutrients from our body to turn those into calories and to turn those calories into energy. So it's really, so important that we are eating foods that have those nutrients. The adrenals themselves require a lot of B vitamins. They require a lot of vitamin C. The thyroid gland requires tyrosine. We need a lot of sodium in the form of like sea salt or Celtic sea salt. The sodium is actually, we found, often deficient in people who have adrenal fatigue, so we want to think about sodium as a good thing, especially a good source of sodium. And then magnesium. The adrenals recruit a lot of magnesium, and magnesium is also a mineral we use for our muscles to relax. So when you see people with a lot of tension in their body, tight muscles, headaches, muscle cramps, and they're adrenal deficient, then you can actually see a big impact just with magnesium, helping for the body to feel calmer, more relaxed, and kind of less tense in a physical way. Herbs that support the adrenals, often that help, are kind of specific for the stage of adrenal fatigue you're in. So when you have that first beginning stage of adrenal fatigue and high cortisol, you want herbs, those herbs that are more balancing, calming, restorative, but not stimulating, because you already have sort of excess energy, excess anxiety. So the herbs that are more balancing in that stage of high cortisol and stress are the ashwagandha, rhodiola. Those are kind of more balancing. Some of the herbs you talked about for the nervous system, which I'll talk about it as well. And then that low cortisol stage where you're feeling depleted or even dysregulated, you can appropriately use more of the herbs like the ginsengs and the licorice, because they will actually help support cortisol and support cortisol lasting longer. So in the morning, if you're waking up with low cortisol when it should be high, like a licorice tea or ginseng tea can really help your energy and kind of boost your blood sugar and help you feel kind of awake and maybe less depressed. So that would be an appropriate use. Again, a qualified practitioner might be able to help you, but teas are generally safe, and you can kind of experiment with that. For me in particular, I can rarely do licorice. I think I tend to be sort of wired anyway, and the licorice just really, it's like more stimulating than caffeine for me. So I think your sensitivity to the herbs should be kind of, tune into your body and see how those affect you and which one seems soothing. The nervous system is also supported next video, I'll talk a little bit about more our neurotransmitters, the dopamine, serotonin kind of GABA system, but proteins provide the amino acids from which we make all these neurotransmitters. So we'll talk about a little bit more in general what those specific amino acids are, but a good source of protein always supports the brain and brain chemistry. Phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylserine, a portion of the B vitamin that really supports the nerves. It helps recreate that myelin sheath around the nerves, which is how nerves are conducted. That can get depleted, and with high cortisol, especially phosphatidylserine, can really help suppress some of that high cortisol picture. Let's see, some really supportive nervine or herbs that support the nervous system are chamomile, the passion flower, valerian, skullcap, holy basil, some of those really soothing teas. Oats, of course, yeah, and even eating oats as a food can be really soothing to the nervous system and calming to the nervous system, balancing, especially if you have anxiety. So again, lifestyle, finding time to be in that parasympathetic state of rest. That's what we balance, the sympathetic state of fight or flight, the parasympathetic state of being balanced, rested, time to do yoga, being out in nature, time to walk, just simple breathing exercises. I think I probably should have been breathing more in this video. But I kind of looked up the Latin root word of breath or inspiration, and inspire means to excite, encourage, or to breathe life into. So the word inspiration, or when we're breathing and we inspire, it's actually this access to our vitality, part of our chi. It's sort of this nourishing connection to life itself. So I think the older I get, the more I appreciate just this experience of breathing. And in the last year, even having practices with the breath. So that might be another thing we could explore on another video. Time to write. Do music, dance, walk, do yoga, martial arts, any of these experiences that help us connect maybe to the right side of our brain, where we have this access to our intuition, to our soul, to our deeper nature. It's kind of access really to our soul. You know, the left side of the brain is more logical, rational, but the right side of the brain is more access to our heart and our heart's desire. So any of those activities that can help you start tuning into that really is a way to start having access to you, opening up to what you need to heal, who fits, or what information fits, or how you connect with something is really gonna allow you to explore where you need to go to get the answers you need to heal. I think as a naturopath and a Chinese medicine doctor, one of the thrills and what keeps us doing this work, even though it's not necessarily easy, is this miraculous ability of seeing people heal. I mean, to seeing moods change, to seeing bodies change, to seeing relationships develop, to seeing people, you know, come into their own passion, their own vitality, and really why they're here. Everybody has a purpose, and if we can be a catalyst and a support to help people find that, I think we're doing our job. And it really, you know, it continues to inspire me. You know, what if you don't practice what you're preaching? You know, it
helps.
Yeah.
It helps remind us.
Yeah,
and
it
stuff.
helps remind us, and it helps us continue to be authentic, and you know, most of all, have compassion. I mean, change
lots
happens.
of compassion.
Yeah. Change happens over time. I
Definitely.
mean, you know, the wounded healer is part of both of our stories. You know, if we didn't believe in what we're doing because we didn't see it change our lives, I don't think this would come off as authentic. So really give yourself that self-care, you know, tap into your feelings, believe that you can heal, and I think you will find the answers you need from some of the words we said, from some of the examples we talked about. If you start believing that you can see that change, it'll happen for you. So thanks again for watching our videos, and we have some handouts or other information to share that followed the video. And if you'd like to continue to watch us, please tune in. And if you'd like to share this with your friends, somebody you think it might help, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you.